It has always been Arlington's main corridor and one of the region's major arteries. Now Mass Ave has been nationally recognized as an all-American road. Robbins Library commemorates Black History Month with the launch of an archive that will elevate voices of color in Arlington now and forever. And there's another election coming up in April. Don't expect to mail that ballot in though. All this and more up next on ACMi News.
From McLennan Park to Spy Pond, from Poets Corner to the Mystic River, we have Arlington covered. We're your neighbors, a friend you can turn to. This is ACMi News.
Hello Arlington and welcome to ACMi News. I'm Paul Werlin. The lighting grid in our studio is being updated, so this week's newscast comes to you from the cozy confines of our control room at Studio A. We start off with a story that is still unfolding out of the Arlington Police Department. An Arlington police officer was recently placed on administrative leave pending further investigation of an incident that took place on February 10th. The officer was responding to a call at an area hotel about a man matching the description of a wanted felon who had previously damaged a room at that hotel and avoided payment. When officers responded to the call, a pursuit on foot ensued and two suspects were detained. Two women were found at the hotel along with evidence of drug packaging. Earlier this week, Police Chief Julie Flaherty released a statement on the APD blog about the incident. She wrote that a social media post by one of the detainees, a Somerville man, prompted an investigation into an interaction between him and an APD officer. The man and the officer on administrative leave have not been identified, and the APD has not yet made any additional comments about the incident. We will continue to monitor the story as it develops. Black History Month may be drawing to a close, but the Robbins Library is set to launch an archive that won't have an expiration date. Their new collection focuses on personal stories, poems, essays, photos, memoirs, and more that reflect the lived experience of Arlington residents of color over the years. ACMi News correspondent Maxim Isaac has this report, including how you too can contribute to the project.
Hey there, what are you doing? Let's go check out the new collection at the Robbins Library. Actually, wait a minute, let's go this way. That's right, you don't have to go to the library to view the new collection. In the coming weeks, the entire collection will be available from the comfort of your computer.
It is virtual and we are not accepting objects.
After the COVID-19 collection, the Robbins Library is rolling out their second virtual collection with a focus on a specific group of individuals.
I reached out to Jill and I told her we have this fantastic platform and I would really love to capture the voices of people of color here in our community. And Jill was really excited and let's move forward from there.
Jillian Harvey is Arlington's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Coordinator who feels this collection allows people of color to have a more accurate narrative.
For me personally, in the role that I have, I often hear folks speak on behalf of or for or about people of color in their experiences. These people are white, so for me, that's not okay. And this is the opportunity to be able to have individuals share what they want to share.
Jillian explains that everyone has their own unique story to tell.
So being able to speak for yourself and do it, not necessarily speak, but express yourself in a number of different ways, whether it is through an art form or writing, even audio, any way you see fit, it's up to you to express yourself.
The library is hosting a series of events around this collection meant to make it easier for Arlingtonians to take part.
This Saturday is that artist talk with Charles Coe. And then the following Saturday, the 6th, March 6th, will be the workshop with him. And then we're looking to kind of do things kind of bi-monthly. It's a lot to jam pack and plan for each month.
Anna says participants can submit things anonymously if they prefer. The collection is not available online yet, but Anna explains how you can stay updated.
Subscribe to our newsletter. The subscription button is right on our website, and that will be a great way to find out about some of these events that Jill was mentioning that we don't have a set date for some of these yet.
The collection will be open all year round, and if you want to submit something, like Anna said, just go to the library's website. For ACMi News, I'm Maxim Isaac.
The CDC has reported a significant rise in mental health struggles during the pandemic, particularly for people of color and for younger populations. ACMi's In-Young Kim met with clinicians at the Arlington Youth Counseling Center to get their take from this particular front line in the battle with COVID-19.
It's been a year since the pandemic put an abrupt stop to our daily lives. During these difficult times, mental health struggles have surged, and demand for mental health counseling services has increased. A notable point is the racial and ethnic disparities in mental health struggles, according to the CDC's Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report. According to that survey, people of color and especially Hispanic residents report higher levels of stress than other groups. ACMi interviewed Linda Suzuki, clinical director at the Arlington Youth Counseling Center, and Andrew Keith, supervising psychologist, about the increasing incidence of mental health issues during the pandemic.
The demand for services over the past number of years has increased tremendously for children, adolescents, and families. And I think it's only become a greater demand over this period of time during this pandemic. So yes, there has been an increase. There are others, families, particularly Black and Hispanic Latino families, get hit harder because socioeconomically they might be out of work, and there is limited access to different services. So just wanted to recognize that some people are hit even harder than others.
Many variables affect the rise of mental health struggles and demands for counseling from young people. As Andrew Keith points out,
there are so many variables. The colder weather, harder to get out and see friends in a safe way. I mean, the main things I think that are driving the mental health concerns are isolation.
some kids experience symptoms like depression, anxiety, and eating disorders as a consequence of social isolation.
Big signs to look out for in yourself and in loved ones are, behavioral changes, change in appetite, change in sleep, more isolation, a change in mood, right? Somebody's more sullen or down or doesn't want to talk. And if you start feeling, a certain way, very anxious, very worried, very down, very hopeless, and it's ongoing, those are things that ought to be addressed.
Lastly, the counselors offer these suggestions for those who are experiencing stress during the pandemic.
I think it's important to reach out to others, to utilize services, even if there are wait lists and things, obstacles, that support of other people can make a world of difference going through such a difficult time together. And there are services out there, informal and formal, to help people in need, that people don't have to suffer alone.
It is not abnormal to experience mental distress during this difficult time. If you or your loved one experience any symptoms, try to reach out. And take heart. A warmer spring is just around the corner. For ACMi News, I'm In-Young Kim.
The state legislature provided vote-by-mail options for the November election, enabling anyone, including those with COVID-19 concerns, to vote by absentee ballot. That legislation is set to expire at the end of March. Ella Ward shares what this means for Arlingtonians voting in April, as well as the broader importance of local elections.
As it currently stands, the Arlington town election on April 10th will not have the same vote-by-mail options as the 2020 election. The legislation was drafted at the beginning of the pandemic and is set to expire on March 31st. With COVID-19 case numbers still worrisome, there are good reasons to preserve the vote-by-mail option for all. Representative Sean Garbley is currently working to extend the rules from 2020.
The goal is to try to pass intermittent legislation before we do the larger bill to make it permanent that would cover all municipal elections between now and the end of June.
His ultimate goal is to make mail-in voting in the Commonwealth a permanent fixture, But for April, it's all about the timing.
And I'm working on that legislation, but it needs to get to the Joint Committee on Election Laws. They can have a hearing on it, and we can try to get it for a vote ASAP.
Even if it were to get through the State House in time, Garbely notes concerns from Arlington's town clerk, Julie Brazil.
The concern is that there's not enough time already for them to be able to, to depend on the mail service to send a voter an application, to send a ballot, and to get it back before the April 10th election. So in reality, for Arlington, what we're trying to get past is the no excuse absentee waiver.
Alex Slakis from Mass Vote, a nonpartisan voting advocacy group, outlines the hurdles that exist for absentee voting.
If you want to vote absentee, you have to meet one of three criteria. You either have to be out of town on election day, physically disabled, or have a religious reason. And that's within the state constitution. So you can't, unfortunately, just pass a law to change that.
Until COVID-19, this wasn't a major issue on many people's minds. But now absentee voting is recognized as a huge asset for increasing voter turnout.
So moving forward, yes, we want to definitely keep something like vote by mail because it worked.
Beyond increasing turnout, it also makes people feel safer in these times. Arlington resident Ann Goodwin explains.
I think mail-in voting is a really important option, particularly since the pandemic is continuing. And I think in general, we should make voting as easy and accessible to everybody as possible.
Garbely says he is working hard to give people an option they feel safe with.
So right now, it's really important for me is to try to pass a shorter, a stopgap measure to allow the extension of the program that we used during the presidential election till at least the end of June, so that Arlington and all the other municipal elections that are being held between now and the end of June can go forward with safety.
If the legislation isn't extended, Garbely remains confident in the safety of Arlington polling locations.
In the law, we put very strict requirements on voting in person to make sure social distancing requirements are upheld from 6 feet, to make sure there are hand sanitizing stations at every polling location.
Salakis reminds us of the importance of local elections.
Who's elected at the local level will impact pretty much everybody on a daily basis. It impacts the things you don't think about. It impacts traffic patterns. It impacts trash collection. It impacts education.
And Garbely doubles down on this idea.
It's really critical to have your voice heard by voting in all elections, but especially local elections, because the decisions made by many of our volunteers and elected boards really do impact you as an individual here in Arlington, almost more than what happens at the federal level.
Goodwin always votes in local elections and emphasizes their importance.
It's a place where my voice can have a bigger impact, and these decisions that we make on the local level really ripple out to the larger level.
The Arlington town election will take place on April 10th. For ACMi News, I'm Ella Ward.
Arlington's rich history is receiving new recognition. Reporter Isabel Litterst spoke with Arlington's Director of Economic Development, Allie Carter, and the President of Arlington's Historical Society, George Parsons, about some exciting news that puts Arlington on the map in a new way.
History is around every corner in Arlington. Memories of American history line the streets, notably the Battle Road Scenic Byway, which travels through Arlington and recently became the first all-American road in Massachusetts.
An All-American Scenic Byway is a federal designation given to roads that are both scenic and have historical significance. Allie Carter, the head of the Economic Development Committee in Arlington, explains why Arlington qualifies for such a distinguished title.
That has to have so many qualities that are important to the country, that they actually have like almost an international draw. And we have that on the Battle Road. So we're really excited to get that highest level of federal scenic byway designation.
George Parsons, head of the Arlington Historical Society, explains where the Battle Road is and why Arlington is so important to the route.
And the Battle Road Scenic Byway actually runs from the Arlington-Cambridge line along Mass Ave out through Lexington and Lincoln and Concord, and finally terminates at the Old North Bridge. It's approximately the route that the British regulars took on April 19th, 1775, when they marched out from Boston to Concord.
Some historical sites along the byway that fall in Arlington are the Town Hall, the Minutemen Bikeway, the Schwa Mill, Robbins Library, Spy Pond, Whitmore Park, and the Jason Russell House.
We will get the recognition that this corridor of history and technology deserves. It's, after all, the birthplace of our country. The entire country started here with people like Jason Russell, whose house we still operate here in Arlington as a house museum, defending their homes against what they thought was unfair governmental interference in their daily lives. More patriots fell at the Jason Russell House in one place than any other place along the Battle Road, and that's obviously in Arlington Center.
Both George and Allie speak to the significant impact that this designation will have on the Arlington community.
What that's going to do for Arlington and the other communities along the Battle Road is it's going to improve signage, it's going to improve sort of access to the important sites along the Battle Road. We'll be able to afford to produce more information so that tourists coming to this area will have a more complete experience. The Minuteman National Park currently draws about 500,000 visitors a year, which is absolutely astounding. And in Arlington, we get a small fraction of that. And I think that the Battle Road Scenic Byway program will help expand that total available market to us.
Everyone knows about Lexington and Concord, right? Kids start learning about that in school in 3rd grade. So that's some pretty intense marketing. But there's really significant things that happened in Arlington on the same day. The battle that took place at the Jason Russell House had the highest number of casualties on that date. So, you know, we kind of want that site and others in town to get the attention that they deserve.
The Battle Road Scenic Byway Committee has made it easy for tourists to enjoy Arlington's historic sites.
We actually put together a website, and the website is battleroadbyway.org, and is an interactive guide to the whole Battle Road Scenic Byway.
Allie Carter has already started planning for the 250th anniversary of 1775, when Arlington made its mark on American history.
The 250th anniversary of the events of April 1775 are in 2025. And so there's going to be probably 2 years at least of these Revolutionary War anniversary celebrations. And we're going to have some of the first ones. People coming to have lunch and see the Jason Russell House and see the Dallin Museum and Schwa Mill and other sites in town, people who are interested in history. I think they'll have a wonderful experience. We just have to make sure they know that we're here.
The Arlington sites along the byway prove that this town has been and continues to be a hotspot for history. For ACMi News, I'm Isabella Turst.
In the latest in our series spotlighting local businesses, senior news producer Aneem Osmani visited Capitol Square in East Arlington to meet a couple of women who didn't let a little old pandemic get in the way of their ambitions to open their very own shops.
The Capitol Theater block in East Arlington features a variety of mom-and-pop stores. When COVID came along, many of these small businesses were heavily impacted and had to navigate through some challenges. But despite the challenging times, 2 local women powered through the conditions so that they could open their respective businesses in a space once occupied by Artbeat until early last year.
So we just ended up deciding to open in the middle of COVID. So it was a very interesting decision, but good overall. We ultimately made the decision because the location was really great and the space was really good, and it just worked out.
Kristen Kipp and Kaylee Urenka share the space at 212A Mass Ave. Ms. Urenka is the owner of Yes, a small pop-up store that offers plastic-free alternatives to everyday household commodities. She once shared the space with Jan Whitted, the owner of Artbeat, who is now part of a Lowell-based art group, Western Avenue Studios. When Ms. Whitted closed her shop, Ms. Urenka invited her friend, Kristen, to open up her business at the location.
She and I were talking about me having a pop-up within her studio space. And then as she was realizing that the direction she wanted to go was not going to be working here and with COVID. You know, she mentioned that the space was going to be opening up and how it would be so nice to have another shop in here instead of it turn into like an office building. And I happened to know that my friend Kristen was looking for a shop, and so that all came together.
I've been looking to open a store for a long time now, for a couple of years, and I've just kind of been looking for the right location and trying to figure out like what the right market is and kind of what the right product angle is. And it had been stalled. I was working a different job, you know, also in kind of the apparel world. And when COVID hit, that position kind of was eliminated that I was doing. And so I was wide open to do whatever I wanted to do. And then this location kind of serendipitously fell into my lap through Kaylee.
Greater Good sells artisanal products handcrafted by local artists and fair trade importers. It may seem challenging to open and run a business during a global pandemic, but a strong focus on shopping local initiated by the town, along with local support, contribute to the success of businesses across the town.
It's been great. I mean, I think that locals are really interested in shopping local, and there's just more people in their neighborhoods. Everybody's working from home, so they're walking to grab coffee a couple doors down, or just like out trying to get some exercise and popping in to say hi and check out what we've got.
You know, we can't be quite as community oriented as we wanted to in person, but mostly I think it's been positive because people are paying so much attention to local business and how much they care about keeping them here after COVID has ended. So I think mostly it's just been really positive. People want to support us.
The two businesses are open on Wednesday through Sunday. For more information, you can check out their website or their social media pages. For ACMi News, I'm Anim Osmani.
It's back to school for the Ponderscope crew. Hope you enjoyed your vacation, guys. And that means we get to hear the latest from Arlington High. Take it away, folks.
Hello, and welcome back to this week's edition of the Ponderscope, your Arlington High School news, updates, and more. The new departmental shift schedule has been implemented for in-person learning. Details on which days are in-person shifts and where to go can be found on each class's Google Classroom. While on school premises, be sure to properly wear a mask, not a neck guider and no filter masks. Maintain a distance of 6 feet from other students, and follow the arrows to reduce exposure. If you are not attending in-person classes, be sure to follow your teacher's instructions for work on shift days. More information on the departmental shift schedule can be found at the Arlington High School website under COVID Remote and Hybrid info. The Citizen of the Month nominations are due by the end of this month. Make sure to nominate someone who you feel makes AHS a more positive place. The Citizen of the Month nominee for February will be announced at the beginning of March. See the Daily Post for the link to the Google form. Embracing Our Differences, sponsored by the AWG and the Everyday Racism Committee, is inviting students to create a mural design celebrating individuality and embracing diversity, equity, and inclusion. Mural design submissions are due by Sunday, February 28th. The submission form and extra information can be found on the Daily Post. AHS Senior Local Scholarships are due on March 1st. Check the scholarship season page on the Arlington High School website for more details. The Dog Club is hosting a pet supplies donation drive for unopened food or pet supplies in good condition. Drop-off for donations is at Arlington High School from 3:30 to 4:30 on February 26th and 27th, or email EHUET2021@spyponders.com for home pickup and questions. I'm Veronica Barton, and that's all on this week's edition of the Ponderscope.
How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to the ACMi Sports Update. We had a set of championship games last weekend that both our girls varsity hockey and basketball squads made it to. Let's start with the girls on the ice, where the Spy Ponders went to Stoneham to take on the Woburn Tanners in the finals of the Middlesex League tournament. The Spy Ponders walked into the bout already crowned division champions and were looking for a second set of gold with the tournament win. Unfortunately for the Ponders, the game didn't start as they would have liked, as the Tanners scored this goal early to take a 1-0 lead.
Up, and here we have a breakaway. Here's Sodercrest again. Oh, that's Russo with a snipe to start the game, and an absolute snip-a-doodle-doodle over Rod's glove. And Woburn comes out strong, 1-0.
After a back-and-forth battle throughout the rest of the game, the Spy Ponders pulled their goalie in an attempt to tie it. But unfortunately, the Tanners were able to put the final nail in the coffin, netting an empty netter to take the 2-0 lead. Where unfortunately that's where the game would stay, ending in a 2-0 win for the Tanners. Although the season didn't end as they would have liked, it was truly an incredible season for the girls, and I was lucky enough to be there calling most of their games. Championship action wasn't done yet, however, as the girls' varsity basketball squad were also in the finals of the tournament against Burlington. The girls on the court also had an amazing season up to this point as they looked to win the Middlesex League tournament. This was another extremely close game that came down to the final seconds, where unfortunately Burlington was able to close it out and win 43-40. With the winter season now over, we congratulate all the winter sports teams on an outstanding season. And now, we look ahead to the start of the Fall 2 season, and we'll have more coverage on that next week. From ACMi Sports, my name is Nick Antonakis.
That's all we have for today. Thank you for tuning in to this week's newscast. For the cast and crew of ACMi News, I'm Paul Werlin. We'll see you next week. Stay safe.
You can always check out our latest segments and newscasts on the web at acmi.tv/news. And don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at ACMi News. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. You'll find us at youtube.com/ACMi News. If you have any news tips for us or wish to become a citizen journalist, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at news@acmi.tv or stop by ACMI Studio A at 85 Park Avenue.